We're singing. We're singing. Dun, 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 dun. Time to talk.
Vampire.
Beauty and the Bitch.
Morgan.
What's up, baby?
Hi, how are you, darling?
OMG, so good. Living my best life. How are you?
I'm fabulous, and I'll tell you why I'm fabulous. I have a specific reason on tonight. Yes. Okay, so I was watching, I don't know if you've heard of it, this show, Good Omens. Have you heard of that?
Yes, of course.
Okay, cool. And I was watching it, and I was like, oh my God, I see myself on this show.
I thought that about you too. I did.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. Yeah, because there's so many things about him that I was like, it was like looking in a mirror. You know what I mean?
Same. Same. Yeah.
I mean, okay.
Yes.
Well, I will say. I mean, that being said, I will say that his style wasn't really my thing. Like, I can't ever wear white. I don't know how people wear white. But I love the fact that he owned a bookshop. I thought that was so sweet. And he was so sweet and kind. And I was that's me. What are you talking about?
Oh, honey, no.
What?
You look at Good Omens and you think you is Aziraphale?
Yeah, I'm the angel, just like I'm the beauty. Everyone knows that. What are you talking about?
Literally, you're 4,000% a Crowley. You are a David Tennant reincarnated into a little cute, queenie little body. You over there living your best homestead life, but you are putting the fear of God in those plants.
Okay. I will say you soften the blow a lot by calling my body both cute and little. And also David Tennant is a god, but I'm really... Oh, so what? You think you're Aziraphale?
I mean, I naturally am the sweet bookshop owner who has tea time and is friends with Gabriel and is just hanging out in scarves. I mean, I'm hanging out in scarves. It's literally my life.
Look, Queen, joke's on you because you are not Aziraphale. You have two choices. You can be the whore who lives beside the witch hunter, or you can be the dog.
I would literally be either of those people.
Yeah, I know, they're both
I'd
fabulous.
rather be the dog, I think.
Yeah, he's fabulous. Oh, welcome back, friends, to another episode of Beauty and the Bitch. I'm Mick.
And I'm Morgan.
Demon from hell.
Yes, he's a demon, and I'm an angel, like I've always been. Just a sweet, sweet angel.
Okay, well, this is... I might be Crowley, but I don't know if you're really a good dupe for Aziraphale.
The thing about them is they're both... We are so much them, not necessarily playing those roles, but because they're a little bit gray. They're not black and white, you know? They tread that middle line. They're willing to take shortcuts and make sacrifices for friendship, no matter what other motherfuckers say.
That's so true. It's so, and I mean, that's life too. It's like religion or politics or any of these things where we break into camps. People want you to believe that things are black and white and that any situation's black and white. But really, everybody's ashy. It's all gray. Mm-hmm. It's just ash. It's just knees and elbows everywhere you look.
We should put that on a t-shirt. Everybody's ashy. Mick Parker.
I don't know. That might be cultural appropriation. I better not.
That's a good call. That was a really mature thing that you just said and did, and I respect it.
Is it? Or am I making fun of the whole idea of cultural appropriation, thereby making it less important, thereby being a white colonialist? I couldn't think of another word.
Look, we may never know, but what we will know is that Frances McDormand is the voice of God.
Yes, but only for two... Okay. Obviously, this episode, everyone, we're talking about Good Omens, which is an Amazon Prime miniseries that dropped on May 31st of 2019. Okay, back to that. Frances McDormand, yes, she's the voice of God, but she hardly talks. Doesn't she only talk in 2 episodes out of the 6 or something?
No, I think she talks in every episode.
Oh, does it narrate at the beginning of every episode?
Yes.
Is there narration? Honestly, I don't even remember it, so I guess I wasn't that impressed by it.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring up that there was this narration aspect because the voice of God is that's how Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett wrote the Good Omens book. Terry Pratchett is recently deceased in the last few years, R.I.P.
2015.
And Neil Gaiman wanted to make this show sort of in his honor to like help it live on, and he wanted to be really true to the text, so he was the writer for the episodes, which is why it was so true to the book and so good. But he was trying to find a creative way to bring the narrative points over, because the book is a lot of narration on top of like character interaction, and that can be really difficult to do in an adaptation, but I think that they did a great job.
You know, I read, I agree that overall they did a great job. Actually, pause 1 second, actually. We should say, and actually we didn't discuss this, Morgie, I'm kind of thinking we're going to avoid spoilers for like most of the series. What do you think? Is that possible? Or
yeah, let's not spoil what happens. But I think like the basics of like the plot are like pretty well known and shown in the trailer. So I think we're safe to talk about the like sort of plot direction.
Okay, cool. So it's kind of like we're on Pop Culture Happy Hour, because that's what they do. If anyone listens to that NPR show, they talk about everything, but they never spoil anything. I don't know how they do it.
And we have the same budget that they have. We're basically the same. Oh
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We're also just as respected. Anyway. Neil Gaiman both adapted and wrote it, and he was the show writer, so he was a very present hand throughout the entire formation of the series, and I feel like it really has his flavor. Like, I think I would have known that he was really important to the production, even if I didn't know he was the showrunner.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And there was a lot, while being true to the text, there was some really good additions and changes that they made too, that made it more modern and relatable. And I think that it's good that they were really open about making those choices. Like, for example, Good Omens is a very white book, like most fantasy is, especially from the 90s. Just a very, very white book. And so in this adaptation, it was really important to Neil and to the showrunners to adapt it in a way that was more relatable. Even though the main characters are still largely white, they were able to bring in some other diversity, which was nice.
Yeah, there were like demons that were black. There was an evil nun who was black.
Adam and Eve were black.
Oh, that's true. That's good. That's notable. What I'm trying to get at is they could have done more with that. I don't know. I would not hold that up as like, ooh, paragon of diversity. Because as you said, every single main character is white as a lily. But, I mean, who cares? I mean, whatever. Sometimes white people tell stories too. I mean, that's okay.
Fucking British people.
Exactly. I mean, we went through this with Chronicles of Narnia, girl. How are you going to make a white-ass character black? It doesn't always work. I mean, really, you can't make Peter Pevensey black. Though I think Aziraphale could have been black, or frankly, Crowley, either of them, because it's a demon and an angel, so they're already like otherworldly weirdos. So I don't really think they both needed to be white, but I mean, David Tennant and Michael Sheen as the demon and the angel, respectively. I mean, I can't argue with that, and I don't think anyone will, so.
And I saw, when South by happened this year in March in Austin, I went to a Good Omens panel that was really great, and it had David Tennant, Michael Sheen, Neil Gaiman, the director, whose name is something McKinnon, can't remember.
Steve McKinnon, and then it also had John Hamm. And it was like a fucking fantastic panel, but they talked a lot about the casting and like how it came about. And I guess that Neil Gaiman had always envisioned Michael Sheen, who was a person that he was like sort of friends with, that he would play Crowley. And so he originally approached him and was like, we're going to do this. I need you on board. We're not going to do it without you. So Michael Sheen originally signed on as Crowley. And then like in the early stages of like scripts, when they were like casting for the other roles, he said he had like a really panicky evening where he was like reading through it. And he was like, actually, there's no way I can play Crowley. Like, I am not a Crowley.
but I'm such an Aziraphale. And he said he was really nervous to tell Neil about it. And then the next day he was like, Neil, I have to tell you, I don't want to be Crowley. I want to be Aziraphale. And he said Neil was like, oh, thank God, because I felt like we got that all wrong.
That is crazy. Wow. I mean, and I agree. I mean, for the record, I agree with him. I don't think he would have been a good Crowley at all. He's a great actor, but he feels wrong for it. Even if he was made up a different way, like everything I've ever seen him in, which is not that much actually. I know he's super famous, but I had to look up his IMDb, and most of the stuff I've seen him in is like the Underworld movies. Like that's where I know him from, which is kind of sad because he's
in the Twilight movies.
Oh, and you know what? I prefer to die rather than see those movies. So sadly,
he's in a lot of like fucking British stuff. He's like a British actor.
Yeah, I saw. Well, I don't feel like looking it up right now, but yeah, he's got like a storied career. Like he's extremely famous. But I did not know his name right off. I'm not gonna lie. To me, he's no David Tennant as far as fame goes. You know.
Yeah, I think probably in the UK they're comparably famous, but I think for America, David Tennant is probably far more famous just because of the magnitude of like a Doctor Who, and he was in a fucking Harry Potter movie, albeit briefly. Like people know him for that. That
tongue, girl.
Yes.
Ooh, that tongue.
He crazy. He's so cute.
I would so fuck him, tongue or not. In fact, that tongue is a plus. That tongue is a plus.
You're a thinker. He's using it right now.
A deep, deep thinker, if you know what I mean.
So smart.
Okay, before we go another step forward, Morgie, do you think you can break down what the basic show is?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. Give it a shot, and I'm going to critique you as always.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, Good Omens is essentially a tale of two friends who shouldn't be friends because they're an angel and a demon, and over the centuries have had each other's backs but been fighting the nature of their friendship. And then they are approached by their respective heads of departments. It's very The Good Place in that way, where it's like the upper level is in charge of things. I don't know, that didn't come from my department, that sort of stuff. And they sort of are these like low level ethereal beings placed on Earth to manage respectively good and evil. So Crowley is the devil or the demon, and he's on Earth to kind of sow discord and make people hateful and make bad choices so that they join. So when they die, they'll go to hell. They're always like, oh, we got one for our team. And then Aziraphale is there to do the opposite. He's there to instill like peace and cohesion and bring light into the world. So he's there fixing all the problems that Crowley's making. And they sort of like tag team on that and have a really good relationship. It's cute. And then they are both really shook by the day they find out from their respective head offices that the Antichrist has been born, which signifies the start of the end of the world. And so basically the whole show is about the two of these people trying to find a way to prevent the end of the world, because as it turns out, they like it a lot on Earth and they like being together, and they can't imagine a world where they don't get to do those things. So that's their mission, and chaos, comedy, and adventure ensues.
Yes, good job, Morgie. That was perfect.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And people say you'll never amount to anything. Look at you now.
What?
Oh,
Who?
no, nobody. Oh, by the way, your dad's calling. I talk to him every night.
Oh my God.
What? I don't want to ignore his call. We're very close. He tells me things. Anyway. Yeah, so this was, I think we mentioned already, this is a mini-series. It's just a 6-part mini-series. So, you know, it's like the fantasy version of Big Little Lies. It's practically the exact same show, except it's fantasy. And Morgie, how long did it take you to watch it? Did you binge it, or did you break it up over a period of time?
I broke it up over like a week and a half. I think it's very bingeable, and I think it's like short and sweet, and that there's not a lot of like excess. Like I feel like the story moves along really well, like a really good pace. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I binged it over 2 nights, more or less 3 episodes a night, and yeah, it went very fast. You know, I was it was funny because normally if there's something attached, Neil Gaiman is attached to, normally I'm the one who brings it up first because I'm such a huge fan of his. You are too, but I'm like, he's one of my favorites of all
Right.
time. But this time, you were the one, you started watching it and you were like, Mickey, we've got to do this. This is amazing. And I was very hesitant. And here's why. I'll tell you why. Now, this is nothing against Terry Pratchett. May he rest in peace.
R.I.P.
But I am not a fan of Terry Pratchett's kind of fantasy. Like, humorous fantasy does not do it for me. I don't like humor. I prefer dark fantasy. And even though it's true that Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman wrote Good Omens, the novel, together in 1990, they co-wrote it, Terry Pratchett did about 2/3 of the writing. And I tried to read that book 3 or 4 times, and I just hate it. I don't like, it's so punny, and everything's so absurd and hilarious, and I just fucking don't like that. So I was very iffy about watching the show because, getting a third Neil Gaiman, but otherwise something I don't care for at all, is almost worse than no Neil Gaiman at all, if that makes sense. But maybe because Neil Gaiman was the show writer and because he adapted it, I really loved it. I mean, I thought it was super enjoyable. There were some weak points I want to get into, but mostly I thought it was just a joy.
That's awesome. So I just read that book this year for the first time because I knew they were going to South by and I just wanted to be a part of the experience and I wanted to be educated on the material and I really liked it. But I do like that sort of comedy infusion. It's not like my main fantasy go-to, but I think it's such a like relief almost from like some of the other like epic fantasy sort of things that I surround myself with. So I find it like great relief because it's not a long book and it's whimsical and it's like modern and relatable. To me, it just feels like a little dessert. It's like, okay, we're just going to read a quick little thing. It's cute. It's funny. It doesn't really stick around.
Sure. Well, I mean, but it has, I mean, there are people who read this in 1990 and have been waiting for an adaptation for years because they played around with the idea of doing a movie, but then it went pretty far, but then it couldn't get like final funding or something. And that was like a decade ago. And there are fans who have been like holding their breath for this. So some people probably are just orgasming continually since it came out. But, yeah, we're a little bit late on the boat in that way. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, how long did it take you to read it? It's a pretty short read, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. It probably like a couple of weeks. The beginning of the year was a really quick reader. Girl, I've been reading the same book for like 3 months right now. I don't even know what day of the week it is.
It's, Friend Day. I'm pretty sure it's Friend Day.
Oh, that's my favorite day.
Yes, it's my least favorite, but we make it.
That makes sense.
See, Crowley and Aziraphale. It really tracks. It does track. I've been in the same place. I mean, I reread. I think I mentioned it on last week's episode, or well, actually in publication. Anyway, the episode was recorded last week. Yeah, exactly. I think I mentioned I was rereading The Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear.
Right, you did.
And I finished those, but then I pulled out this new book called City of Brass, which I guess maybe I'll save that for my plug today. But that's all to say, I've been trying to read this motherfucker for like a week, and I've read maybe like 15 pages. I just, life gets busy, man. There's no judgment.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
So now, did you know that Terry Pratchett's dying wish to Neil Gaiman was to get this show produced?
I did know that. But you know what else? I think he had like a couple dying wishes because I feel like I've heard Neil Gaiman say a couple other things for Terry Pratchett's dying wish. Like destroying all of his unpublished content, which Neil Gaiman did do with a steamroller, by the way.
Wow. I hate that. I hate that authors do that. One of the earliest authors who tried to do that was Virgil with the Aeneid. He wanted the executor of his estate to destroy he wanted him to destroy the Aeneid, but also all of his other works. and the executor, whoever that was, some Roman motherfucker, was like, nah, girl, this is like way too good to destroy. And thank God he did. It's like one of the earliest classics.
Crazy.
At least in the West. But anyway, well, that's sad. Who knows what amazing stuff was destroyed? But okay, whatever, Terry Pratchett. I mean, yeah, I assume they had a conversation. I mean, I don't think it was like his dying breath. But yeah, he really wanted to see this show become a reality. So I'm glad Neil Gaiman was able to do it.
Yeah, me too. And I think the general public is receiving it pretty well. The ratings were pretty high. I think it has an 83 on Rotten Tomatoes, which I actually thought was lower than I expected.
Yeah, I thought it would at least be like an 85 early or high 80s sort of experience.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, but I mean, sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I'm too close to a thing. Maybe I like it a little too much.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Is that a veiled insult at me? I'm so hurt.
Oh, no, I don't like you, though, so it's fine.
Oh, so today's backwards day. You look so good.
Oh.
You look great. See, and that's even shadier because I literally don't know what you look like because we're so far away. But
we're so far.
I know. Everyone should give us feedback, by the way, listeners. We think that the sound quality is pretty good, but this is a very different situation. So let us know if you hear something weird. Lord knows I chain smoke now that I can just sit and, wherever and record. So if you hear the sound of me puffing my cigarette constantly and it grosses you out, let us know. Give us that feedback. But anyway, back to Good Omens. Can I tell you one thing I did not like?
Absolutely. Go there.
Since I'm the Crowley of this relationship. Look, I love John Hamm's big dick as much as anyone else. I really do. I like John Hamm a lot. On Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, he was a wonder and a joy, and he just made that show. I thought he was so miscast in this show.
Interesting. And Gabriel is a character that they invited into the adaptation. He wasn't a character in the book.
Yes, that's true. They had a planned sequel that I've got a little bit of information about we can get to in a second. But, it was planned but never written. And it was supposed to be more about the angels and the demons, and then Crowley and Aziraphale and the world against those two. So kind of where Good Omens leaves us, the miniseries, is kind of where the sequel would have picked up. But yeah, they added all of that Gabriel stuff in. He was just mentioned in the original novel, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I don't even recall the mention.
Yeah, okay, so see, it was just a passing remark. And he's a pretty... I mean, he's not a main character, but we see him as much as any of the, secondary characters, I would say. And I don't know, man. Maybe it's because it was mostly English actors and he's so American, but it felt too broad. It felt like he came in from a different world to me, and his acting was too broad. I didn't think he was very funny in the role. I don't know. I just didn't dig it at all. What did you think about it?
Well, I was a fan of John Hamm. I liked it, but again, maybe I'm a little too close and I don't know. I'm just all in a fluster of it. I'm just so smitten. I think it's great. I think that I enjoyed him as Gabriel, and I think he's got that dumb charm that was a good fit, but I understand what you're saying that you don't like about it, and I felt that way about a different person in the cast.
Oh, who? Do tell.
The Sergeant Witch Hunter, the older guy. I think, to me, he was, the most poorly cast person. I did not enjoy him on screen. I didn't enjoy his comedy or his interactions. And, I don't know if he's Scottish in real life, but I didn't buy his Scottish accent. It, wasn't working for me.
Let's see. Let me double check here, because I've got the IMDb. I had the IMDb pulled up. What? Who's been on my phone? Someone has destroyed my phone.
It was you.
It was me. I don't know. To me, he felt whimsical in that kind of, in that Neil Gaiman kind of way. But he's a famous actor. Let me see.
Yeah, and he was in, there's a Breaking Bad spinoff called Better Call Saul, and he's in it, and he plays Saul Goodman, God, that actor's name that I can't think of right this very second. He plays his brother, and he's a fucking dick, and I hate him, and I wonder if that's why I don't like him in this, because I hate him from the other thing.
I mean, he's kind of a dick in this, too. His name is Michael McKean is his name. And he plays Shadwell, the witch hunter. Yeah. To be honest with you, so we are, of course, avoiding spoilers, but there's a subplot with witch hunters and a witch and the good and true prophecies of Agnes Nutter Witch. I think, is that the name of it? The good and true prophecies? I think so.
The nice and accurate.
Oh, yeah, nice and accurate. Yes. The nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter Witch is this book of prophecy that kind of is used as a reference guide throughout the apocalypse, I guess, might be a good way to talk about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, so we get to meet, like, this whole other party of characters. There's a witch hunter and a psychic prostitute and a witch and a witch hunter's, like, great-great-great-grandson, all this stuff. That was fine. It's not that I disliked it, but it was much less interesting to me than the main plot. And I did feel like that was a bit uneven throughout the miniseries.
Yeah, I can agree with that too.
There was a time though. I agree with you on Shadwell, but later in the series, he how do I put this? He labors under a false impression of power. That makes me laugh really hard. I thought it was quite ridiculous. But that's because, just to get real, that's because I often think that religious people of various sorts, and he's like a kind of religion. He's a witch hunter, but he's religiously fanatic about that. I feel like people who are super religious, they labor under this like false conviction of their own power. And so... yeah, so I laughed really hard at that because it sort of hit a chord with me. But I can see where you're coming from with that. I could see, much less interesting in general.
Just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, and that's too bad because he texted me last week and he really wants to have sex with you.
Well, he's old on top of everything.
But he's famous and rich. He could buy you bangs. He could buy you some new bangs.
Yeah, yes. Because I couldn't just cut my hair because you have to grow your bangs out.
What? I don't understand bangs.
Bangs are fascinating. You'll never know.
Where did they go?
We'll never teach you.
You know what else, just since we're bitching? I also thought the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We probably shouldn't talk about them too much, but obviously it's the apocalypse, so there are going to be 4 horsemen. If that's a spoiler to you, honey, I don't know what to say. I thought that kind of fell flat as well. And I was kind of bummed by that because that was the part that Neil Gaiman wrote, one of the main things that he wrote in the novel. And in the miniseries, I don't know, man, it just
fell flat for me.
Yeah. Oh, okay, you agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Why did it fall flat? I can't really pinpoint it, but I just know that's how I feel.
Well, they took time to do some, pretty interesting and different intros for the 4 horsemen, but, I thought a couple of them were really boring, and then they felt cast really wonky. I wasn't feeling the casting, and, also, they didn't really have chemistry when they came together,
Absolutely. Those were some B-side actors. That's what I think.
Yeah. There were a couple, very sci-fi TV moments, and I think you're right about that, those people. And then also, anytime there was, special effects from, thousands of years ago, it was so sci-fi level, cheesy.
Yeah. There was one thing that I thought was really interesting, and this is in the book. It's not a spoiler, but instead of Pestilence as one of the 4 horsemen, can you name the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, Morgie?
Oh, Lord.
I believe in you.
Not really. There's war.
Okay.
Famine.
Uh-huh.
The one that's garbage. What's it called?
Originally Pestilence, but pollution in this.
Pollution and death.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, I did it. With the friend.
Yeah, you need a lot of that. Friends, I mean, not help, just friends. Everybody needs friends.
That's true.
I liked that that Neil Gaiman replaced pestilence with pollution. I think that's really brilliant. And it's still kind of...
What does pestilence mean? I cannot define this word for you.
Pestilence, like you're a pestilence on my life. It's like illness, like contagious illness. And I think in the novel he makes a joke, or he explains it as like pestilence retired when penicillin was invented, and then pollution came in to take over, or something like that.
Okay.
Though in the Bible, there's also one that's, I guess, war is conquest. Oh shoot. Well, biblically, who the hell knows, and who cares, frankly. But they're slightly different in the Bible, too. But there's always 4, and people assign different things to them. But, yeah, I thought that could have been so cool. They could have done so much with it. And I don't know. It just didn't. Oh, and also, again, without spoilers, the finale, the horseman in the finale, I was like, girl, no. Go home with this. This is lame. Which I still stand beside.
I'll say the finale wasn't as strong as, like, the first third of the series.
I totally agree with that. Once we really start to focus, because we see in episode 1, there's like a baby switch with the Antichrist, and that
I
baby
enjoyed
switch...
that so thoroughly.
So fun. The chattering nuns are one of my favorite parts. They're an evil order of nuns. And the whole point of this order of chattering nuns is to raise, or like to shelter the Antichrist, I guess.
Yeah.
And that shit was hilarious.
They were good. And at South by, they had a group of chattering nuns just like walking around Austin, like singing really sweet songs, but they were all about like Satan. So when you hear them at first, you're like, oh, they're singing a nice song, but it's all about like Satan or the Antichrist, which is hilarious.
I mean, look, speaking of the Bible and the Antichrist and nuns singing about him, the minute I finished the show, I was talking to my mom, and I was like excited about it, right? Because like, you know, as we both agree, it's a good show. And I started to explain to her what it was about, and you know, she's quite religious, and I realized about a sentence in, like, oh, there's no way for me to explain the show in a way that is not going to offend her, because the very idea is sacrilegious. And I think like a real like liberal religious person could maybe watch it and not be offended, but up in this here Bible Belt, girl, no. I'd say about 50% of the 50% of this Walmart is not going to be watching this show, because it is too cutting for them.
That's interesting. That's a really good point. Yeah. I mean, as a person who's like not offended by religious commentary, I didn't even think about that at all. But like, absolutely, it's poking fun at a lot of like religious staples.
Well, and the very idea that a demon and an angel could be friends is enough to make my mom's head explode. I mean, frankly, I mean, just straight up, like that goes against everything she believes. And the fact that heaven, okay, avoiding spoilers very consciously. The fact that heaven is not necessarily a perfectly good place, I think also is something that she can't handle that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a turnoff in that way. But look, people who like Neil Gaiman have a flexible relationship with religion. They pretty much have to, because all he writes about is religion, either ancient or modern. So, I don't know. I figure like the base of people who will love this show won't care. But if someone just stumbles upon it, I mean, you can bet that there are going to be sermons all over the South about this Good Omens show. Like, I promise you that. Mm-hmm. People are going to be preaching against it. So,
yeah, you're probably right. The book's probably banned in a bunch of libraries in Mississippi as we speak.
Oh, sure enough. But you know what? I don't check out books from the library because they might have bed bugs, and I don't go in no church because I would burst into flame. So,
wait, what are you saying right now? You sound like a crazy person. Please tell us more.
About bursting into flame or not checking out books from the library because of bed bugs?
That one.
Well, bed bugs can live in paper, too. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not playing that game. Absolutely not. My little sister was in the library in Conway, which is not where I live, but it's nearby, and she was sitting on a chair, and a bed bug crawled onto her from the chair.
Oh,
and she went up, Uh-huh. And she went up and she told the librarian, because she's real sweet. She was like, miss, excuse me. I'm so sorry to have to tell you this, but, this bed bug crawled on me and I was sitting on your chair over there. And the librarian was like, it happens. And I was like, what? What? No, girl. When you find a bed bug, you burn that place to the ground. So I'm not in favor of that. So no, I'm not doing any kind of library stuff if I can help it, because I ain't getting no bed bugs. I mean, it's true I live out in the country now, and frankly, bugs are all I own at this moment, but I'm not going to add bed bugs to the menagerie. You know.
I feel like you are strong in your stance, and that's where you're going to be then.
What a nothing thing to say to someone. I think that you are strong in your stance, and that's where you're going to be. I do that sometimes.
That's what I think.
No, when I'm arguing with someone about something I care about, like politics, but I'm trying to be nice, and I'm having a day where I'm not like too emotional, I say, well, that is an opinion that you can have. And that's what I say. Well, because I'm not being rude, but I'm also not lying to them and telling them they're right, because I know they're wrong. Anyway. Nice. Anyway, so back to Good Omens. Oh, you know what else? This is a tiny thing, but I love that title screen. The, like, animated title screen.
I like it, too. It's really
so
cute.
Pretty.
Whimsical. Very whimsical.
Yeah, and kind of, Tim Burton-y in a way. I mean, it's not, but it gives me that kind of flavor, like classic
The music, too. The music, I think.
Yeah, and that's a new, that song was made for the show, and it's the same lullaby that Crowley at one point sings to a young boy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like
teaser,
it.
A teaser, not a spoiler.
Yeah, that's a really good part, too. There's a lot of good callbacks, especially because there's a lot of flashbacks literally over like hundreds or thousands of years through time. There's a lot of really good callbacks that I thoroughly appreciated. Like there's a flaming sword that plays a role throughout the show, and a couple other good things.
And here's my question. Why the sword gotta be flaming? What are you trying to say?
Ooh, okay.
I'm gonna start putting on my grinder, no fats, no Asians, no flaming swords.
Wait, don't you want the flaming swords on your grinder? I don't think I know how grinder works.
No. Well, I welcome, that was obviously just a joke. I welcome fat people, femme people, and Asian people. But you know, that's what the shitty gays do. They say no fats, no femmes, no Asians.
That's rude.
Yeah. Yeah. Just goes to prove that gay people are shitty just like everybody else.
Oh, we're all the same.
Yay, except some of us are better looking. Aww.
Yeah, that's true. That's a asterisk, and then underneath is like, except we're better looking than you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, as we lose our looks, we're going to have to find something else to feel superior about. I don't know. I think you should probably just default to racism, because you don't have much else going on.
We'll see what happens. This is a little off topic, but in the same vein. Christina, my coworker, was telling me the other day that she follows this Instagram that's like, does all these like really funny like memes and like quotes and stuff, to rag on the patriarchy. And it was like a quote, and it was like, when he says that he loves and respects all women, asterisk, but only all women under a size 4.
Yeah. I think that's probably true. And also all women who won't talk back to him also.
Asterisk, yeah.
Yeah, asterisk, plus white preferred. Asterisk, must be good in the kitchen. Yeah. Bullshit. Basically. Yeah. Speaking of, oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's a weird, sometimes I can hear my own voice on Skype, and let me tell you, speaking of flaming swords, holy shit.
That one stabbed you hard.
Yeah. I mean, I knew, but sometimes I forget. I sound so much butcher in my own head. Speaking of Tim Burton and that opening scene, I will tell you, this show brings up a fear of mine. And it's a fear because of what I've seen happen to Tim Burton, what he's done to himself. I'm just a little bit afraid, just a touch afraid, that Neil Gaiman is going to become oversaturated in our media, kind of like Tim Burton did. And if that happens, I'm going to be really sad because I don't like Tim Burton stuff anymore because it's the same thing over and over. And to be honest with you, as much as I love Neil Gaiman, he has such a definitive style that I really fear that could happen to him too.
Yeah, I think that's a really real fear. And then also after he's had like, this has been a great success, and like some of the other stuff hasn't been super successful, the adaptations, but like they have a following enough that his content has that kind of buzz that makes it really marketable right now. And he's got a lot of great things out there that can make it to the screen. So I think it's a really real fear that could happen.
Yeah, man. I mean, are you watching American Gods season 2?
I'm
or
not.
Have you seen it?
No.
You know what? And this is very, very telling. I mean, to me, it's telling. I'm not either,
Yep.
man. And I fucking love that book. And the show was fine, okay? It was fine. It was good. But I have no interest in watching the second season.
Nope.
And that literally frightens me because for so long Neil Gaiman was like a secret thing.
Right.
I mean, people knew about him. Obviously, he was he's been famous for decades, but you know, not widely famous. And now he's becoming widely famous. And I just feel like, I don't know, man, the adaptations, the quality hasn't really been up to snuff for me. And I'm afraid they're going to try to do Sandman and ruin that at some point.
So he commented at the panel I saw him at. People were asking like, "What's in the pipeline?" And somebody asked specifically about the Sandman series, and he said that he doesn't own the rights to that. So if and when it is chosen to be an adaptation, he would be happy to be invited into the involvement, but he has no stake in it because it belongs to that label, whatever that comic label is.
Is it Dark Horse? That might not be true. Yeah.
That sounds right.
It might be. You know what? If anyone's interested, y'all can Google it in 2 seconds flat. And yes, we could Google it too, but whatever. Moving on.
Busy. We doing
Yeah, girl. I'm smoking a cigarette and holding a notebook. What are you doing?
I'm holding a pillow, but it brings me comfort.
And comfort is important. Sometimes you really have to make that a priority. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, we'll see in the future. I mean, it's just a fear. I did like this. I do not think they should do a sequel, though. Already, people.
Yeah. I don't think so. I hope that the people who are calling for it, I hope that the creators are like, nah, we good.
Well, as sure as fuck didn't work with Big Little Lies. They're doing season 2 of that shit, and it's getting panned hard.
It's bad. I watched the first episode, and I was like, wow. Trash.
Man, well, and you know, I was actually, I brought up Pop Culture Happy Hour already in this episode, but it's because I was listening to an episode of that when you called, Morgie, and literally it was the Big Little Lies season 2 episode.
Oh, I haven't heard it yet.
It's pretty fascinating, and one of the really salient points that one of the lovely talking heads made, I forget who's who, but they were like, look, the problem with season 2 of this is that there never should have been a season 2. And it's obvious.
100%.
You know? And I feel like that's exactly what it would be if they did a season 2 of Good Omens. And I hope, because Neil Gaiman's in charge, and he tends not to be much of a money grabber, like, he has a true artistic vision, I think, so far. I just hope that he doesn't do a season 2, because we'll always have season 1, but I'm afraid. I'm full of fear.
Yeah, and that's just how we live because the end of the world is nigh.
Girl, that's all right. As long as I have an angel and a demon to be friends with, I'm chill.
That's a party time. You know Crowley can get the fuck down.
Girl.
And Aziraphale be eating food when he doesn't even need it. They know how to play.
I think the way to do it is you go out to dinner with Aziraphale, who, though he's an angel, loves him some fancy food. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you meet up at a bar with both of them, and get to just listen while they talk, and then you go out for late night fun with Crowley.
Yeah.
That's how I think you do that shit. Mm-hmm.
That's the right method.
And then if you end up in David Tennant's bed, I mean, things happen. You know, like, it's not that you planned it, it's just that it worked out that way.
The night goes that way sometimes.
Oh, speaking of that, not at all, actually. I've got a little game. Would you like to play a little game, Morgan?
I love it.
Okay, good. So I'm calling this the shitty and partially false hindsight prophecies of Mick Parker, loser. Okay?
This tracks.
Seems all factual. This is essentially a two truths and a lie, but I just wanted to give it an intense time. Okay. So I've got 3 possible truths for you, and Morgie, you tell me which one you think is a falsehood, okay?
Got it.
Okay. So number 1, Michael Sheen, who plays Aziraphale in Good Omens, also plays the White Rabbit in the horrible Tim Burton Wonderland remakes. Okay.
Okay.
So, okay, got that one? Okay. Number 2, the title of the planned sequel to Good Omens is 669 Neighbor of the Beast. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And number 3, Michael Sheen read gay fanfic and allowed that to help shape his portrayal of his relationship with Crowley.
Is that one false?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
You're wrong. He did do that. He did do that.
Ooh.
I know. And that's
yeah, they had a vibe. They had a vibe.
Oh, yeah. That is like one of the most long-standing ships in fantasy, well, I guess modern fantasy literature. People have been saying for years that they're gay. And Michael Sheen seems pretty... Well, I mean, using a word like gay to describe a relationship between a demon and an angel is really, like, it doesn't really work because they're like otherworldly beings, right? But yeah, there seems to be more than just friendship there. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but man, there's some sexual tension, I think.
I think so too, yeah.
No, the false one is the title of the sequel. I said 669 Neighbor of the Beast. It's actually 668 Neighbor of the Beast.
Oh, tricksy little minx.
I know. Well, I try, you know, survival mechanisms, you know. And then Michael Sheen does, of course, play the White Rabbit in the Tim Burton remakes, which I did not remember at all.
Yeah, I don't recall that, but it makes sense after you said it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think, though, as far as shipping them? I mean, was that something that was in your mind while you were watching, or, you know, how did that...
Yeah, it definitely felt like more than a friendship, especially near the end. But I don't know. But because they weren't like explicitly saying it, I don't know if there did end up being a sequel, if that would play a role in it. And like, I don't even know if they know how to have a relationship. They've been on this earth for like thousands of years, like slopping away at their jobs. Like, are they out there fucking? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, here's my question. Do they even have genitals? I genuinely, because, I mean, I guess they do, because they eat, so they must be able to, well, I mean, they're literally beings made of magic. So, I could see Aziraphale just having nothing, just being a Ken doll. I would assume that a demon would have a dick because lust and sex and stuff, but who's to say, really? And then, you know, second... if you really just have one friend, kind of a frenemy at first, for literally like thousands and millions of years, you would have such a close relationship that whether or not you put your dick in his butt doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's beyond that.
Yeah,
and then
you're in a partnership.
Exactly. I mean, sex is like such a human thing, and angels and demons don't reproduce like that, supposedly, or at least as far as we can tell. In this world, this fantasy world. So I think it's kind of a moot point. I also think, I mean, this is kind of crazy for me to argue this, but I think there's a lot of value in just two characters being friends without sex being brought up. You know, like in this world of like slash fiction and fanfic and shipping, everyone always wants a romantic relationship between characters. And like that really kind of devalues friendship in a very real way to me. So, I mean, did I get gay vibes? Yes, I did. But I get gay vibes watching fucking Wendy's commercials. You know, I mean, that's nothing new. That's nothing new. I would be interested if they did do a sequel, which again I'm very much against. One of the only things I'd be watching for is to see how they portrayed that relationship continuing. Because Michael Sheen sure enough thinks they're gay. Or at least, well, even Neil Gaiman has said that they love each other. So whatever that means, you know, I don't know. I would watch them have sex, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm just over here thinking deeply about it, and like, yeah, they're in a relationship. They're in a relationship, and it just, they have a different version of what that is from what a regular person is, because their life is not fleeting. Their life is thousands, millions of years old, like you said. So yeah, I think that's what this looks like for them.
Yeah. But I will say the people who are immediately like, oh, everything has to be gay. They're not gay. They're just friends. I'm also like, now you're homophobic.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? It's like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because I don't really necessarily think they're gay, but I don't like people getting all mad about it, neither. You know? So, oh, man. So, Morgie, it sounds to me like you would recommend this show to just about anyone.
Oh, hell yeah. But I also recognize that it's not for everyone. So if somebody was like, I watched one episode and I was bored to tears, it's, you know what? It's not your thing. It's not for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people have good taste and some people are shit badgers, and that's just
or trash.
Life, you know?
Yeah,
Utter
absolutely.
trash.
It's a real mixed bag everywhere.
So Morgie, are we ready for plugs? Because I got a good one this week.
Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. We'll say goodbye to this for now, but we'll be back on that Neil topic. He'll come back around soon.
Oh, always. Oh, especially with us. Yeah, he's always got more to say about him. So my plug this week is the book that I'm currently reading. Now, I said I was only 15 pages in. That's not really true. I'm about 80, but it's a big book. It's called The City of Brass. Have you heard of it? Oh, sorry. Are you pooping?
No, I walked away to go grab my book because I couldn't remember who the author was and I wanted to plug it. I have not read this book that you're talking about, but I am very interested.
Okay. And now I'll keep talking for a little while so you can go get your book. Okay. So, you know, normally, listeners, we would just do this via hand motions and raised eyebrows. And, like, there have been times I would do a full bathroom break while Morgan talks.
Girl, we're good if we know what's happening.
Yeah, but when we can't see each other, we can't be shooting no eyebrow signals. Anyway.
We dumb.
So, well, one of us is dumb. The other one of us is talking about The City of Brass, which is a novel. It's by a woman by the name of S.A. Chakraborty, I believe.
That's a name.
Yes, it is. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounced it. I probably did. But Chakraborty. And it's her first novel. And it is a fantasy novel set in Egypt. And it's all about this young girl who is like living on the streets. And she, through various machinations, becomes entangled with a jinn, like a genie. And then he, through various machinations, has to sort of take her through his world. And we get introduced to this whole, oh my goodness, this, City of Brass, which is like the city of the genies. And it's fascinating. And because I haven't read a lot of, like, Middle Eastern fantasy, I'm sure listeners, some of them are much more well-read in that subgenre than I am. But because I haven't read a lot about it, it's all, like, completely new to me. And I am loving it. Now, I will say, it reads like a first novel. And I don't mean that as an insult, but I can see that she still may be finding her feet with, like, her tone and style. But look, it reads pretty fast. The fact that it's taken me so long to get through it has nothing to do with her and everything to do with my life. But I do recommend it, especially to anyone who might be getting tired of Lily White, Chronicles of Narnia-esque fantasy. Awesome. It is a really invigorating option.
Is it a standalone book or is it a series?
It is a standalone as of now, but of course, in this culture, who knows what will happen in the future. The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty.
I like it. Sometimes it's like more exhilarating to find a good standalone fantasy book because so much of fantasy is a huge commitment because it's often bundled in a trilogy or a series.
Mhm. Well, that's how publishers ask for it these days. Like, they
Yeah.
want you to write a series, and when you give them your first novel, you need to already have the second and the third written. Did you know that?
Yeah, isn't that
God, some
bizarre?
bullshit. Yes, I hate it.
Crazy.
Anyway.
Well, I would like to plug a very different book for anybody who's looking for a light, sweet, modern romance novel. My book club is reading The Rosie Project, and we're going to be doing a book club here in a couple weeks, and I've got a lot of reading left to do because I just haven't made time for it. But it's a really sweet book about a man who thinks that he can create essentially an algorithm to help him find the perfect woman, and then the ways in which the world tests him on that. But so far, so good, and everyone in my book club who's finished it is pretty smitten with it, and it actually is a part of a series, and so some of those gals are going ahead and reading the second book in the series, so they must have really liked it.
Interesting. So that's kind of science fiction-y, isn't it? I mean,
It is a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell. It's really towing the line of that.
kind of the way Black Mirror does, the Netflix show. It's like sometimes it's very science fiction-y, and sometimes it's like our world with just a tiny tweak.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, fascinating. That sounds good. What's it called?
The Rosie Project.
Oh, like Rosie Perez?
Like Rosie, I think, is the name of the girl that he ends up with, probably.
Oh, okay. Spoilers. I don't even have to
Well,
read it now. I know he ends up with Rosie. Who cares?
I hadn't finished it. I don't
Oh.
know. Well, be sure to check out both of those great books. And when you're done having a little nightcap read and you hop on your cell phone to peruse the internet, be sure to find Beauty and the Bitch on all of the social media channels, either by searching Beauty and the Bitch or B&B podcast will also get you there. So find us there.
We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Oh, Morgan and I both have personal accounts on Instagram, actually.
Yes, you can find your girl at Morganized Mess.
And you can find your boy at Parker_Homestead.
Yes, it's getting lit over there.
Girl, I posted a picture of a chair.
I was
Which
tight. That was
Yeah,
fun.
it's the full extent of my house so far. Yeah, when I'm not talking about fantasy, I'm fucking clearing the land and fighting badgers and finding blueberries and just like living that homestead life, man.
Looks good on you. Looks good.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to get super fit. I'm going to be the hottest guy in Arkansas.
Done. You're nailing it.
No, not if we count the young ones. Now, we talked about this before. Arkansans don't age well. I might be the hottest guy, like, in my 2-year age bracket, maybe, possibly, if I work hard. But, girl, I can't. Look, a 21-year-old Arkansan is just, a male, I mean, or I guess a female, too, is just beautiful. Because they're so, they're burning that fire. They're burning that fire.
Oh, really hot takes today. I like it.
You know what? I have opinions, and I got no one to answer to. You can't even give me a crazy look, because I can't see you.
That's true. He's all alone. He's got no
I know.
one. Mm-hmm.
I'm Atlas Unbound over here. Okay.
Well, be sure to check in on Mickey next week, viewers, to make sure he is still alive.
Woo woo! No, but seriously, check, because
Please do.
who knows? Yeah.
We love you.
We love you, BBs. Bye!
Do you have a home? Beauty and the Bitch.
You
You look.
Beauty and the Bitch.
Bitch, Beauty and the Bitch.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Bitch.